For millions of years, humanity on this planet has lacked knowledge about how brains work in computational terms. And now we face two major challenges. On one hand, humans fight wars and oppress one another. On the other hand, modern-day general-purpose computers still lack human-like intelligence. After years of cross-disciplinary study and research, we have begun to understand how the brain works in computational terms. Knowledge like this can help resolve human conflicts and enable us to create smarter machines.
Up to this point, you have heard 6 disciplines: neuroscience, psychology, biology, computer science, mathematics, and electrical engineering. Our government experts encourage cross-disciplinary research. This is correct. However, our government experts thought that a single person cannot understand brains. And National Science Foundation Review Panel wrote, solving the problems will take decades for groups of dozens of PIs. Thus, the research is poorly motivated. This is superficial. The first understanding must take place within a single brain. Hundreds of researchers in a research center talking with one another does not amount to an overall understanding. This is like an Indian tale: blind man and an elephant. The brain is like the elephant, and each discipline is like a blind man. Dozens of PIs talking together while touching each brain patch. Can they reach an overall brain understanding that way? What is wrong in this superficial mode of cross-disciplinary research is no PI has spent sufficient efforts to learn all other necessary disciplines. When I had spent much effort and ready to verify the model experimentally, the review panel still insisted on the superficial way. Albert Einstein's relativity is in a single discipline, physics. His relativity theory gave many of us a hard time, including the Nobel Prize Committee. The theory for how brains work requires at least 6 disciplines, as we discussed above. Because physics includes all physical phenomena, then this brain subject also belongs to physics. Sorry, our brain theory has already given the government panels a hard time. Some of you may think that this is only about science, irrelevant to my life. In fact, the material in this talk series is useful to everybody. I will provide principled ways to explain Adolf Hitler's brain, Albert Einstein's brain, Barack Obama's brain, Xi Jinping's brain, Kim Jong-un's brain, your brain, my brain, and so on. You may say, wait, Adolf Hitler's brain is very different from Albert Einstein's. One is a mass murderer, the other does scientific discovery. You will see through this talk series, Adolf Hitler's brain and Albert Einstein's brain use similar learning mechanisms. The difference mainly resulted from their very different life experiences. I am not trying to glorify Adolf Hitler. I only intend to present to you the new science that my group has discovered. Human social life could greatly benefit from the brain model. Barack Obama can see how to better deal with the US economy and international affairs with ISIS, North Korea, Russia, and China. Vladimir Putin can see how to better deal with Russia, the United States, and ISIS. Xi Jinping can see how to better deal with China, the United States, ISIS, and North Korea. You can see how to better deal with your life, your career, and people around you. The new computational understanding of our brains has disclosed an approach to deal with above-measure human problems, historical, current, and future. This approach would surprise many of you, but human history has proved the effectiveness of the approach many times. It just slipped our minds. You will hear it in later episodes of this talk series. The US is facing the 2016 presidential election. My colleague commented, "We can only choose the lesser of the evils." The brain model tells us the US Constitution needs a new amendment. The last amendment became part of the United States Constitution on May 7th, 1992. Let us see what major amendments the United States Constitution will need after many US citizens have known how brains work. Every brain uses similar learning engines. However, every life is very different and unique. This is like every train engine travels along a different path. In other words, your brain and Barack Obama's are learned by similar learning engines. The major difference is the life experience. I'm not saying that human genes are exactly the same, but typical genome difference between two people is minor compared to the life difference between the two. People have different heights, but our body is somewhat plastic. If you exercise, your muscles become stronger. Your brain seems to be much more plastic than your body. Not much in terms of how big the brain is, but in terms of how it works depends on its experience. Any two twin brothers' brain engines travel different paths, even if they live together and do everything together. After fighting for a toy between them, the winner and the loser get different experiences. Let us talk about brain's biology. Have you eaten the brain of an animal in a meal? At that time, the brain is just a piece of meat. That is about its biological nature. A brain, like the body, consists of many cells. Without getting deep into the details of individual cells, we cannot truly understand how the brain works. Although the remaining material of this episode is based on rigorous mathematical proofs, let us try to explain how brains work without using any mathematics. Alan Turing is well known for his imitation test, later known as the Turing test. There is a movie, The Imitation Game. The movie received the Academy Award for Best Writing Adapted Screenplay. Probably less well known is the Turing Machine. Alan Turing published a theory of his computing machines in 1936. Later, such machines have been called the Turing machines. The Turing machine model is simple but important because it is a model for general-purpose computers we use daily. Traditional neural networks, including deep convolution networks with max pooling, are screw-free, as Minsky put it. The most complete logic that our computers can implement cannot be stronger than that of a Turing machine. That is why we want to explain the Turing machines first. A Turing machine consists of three components: a tape, a read-write head, and a control. The tape is divided into squares, each capable of bearing a symbol. The read-write head can read from the tape or write onto the tape one symbol at a time. It can also move along the tape, one square at a time. The control controls the read-write head, read, write, and move. The control has a series of states, which Turing called M configuration in his seminal paper published 1936. The input to the machine is first written on the tape as a sequence of symbols. The output from the machine is written on the tape also as a sequence of symbols. The state in a Turing machine is very powerful. If you pay attention below, you will understand why. A state is a symbol that represents a finite number of elements, regardless these elements exist in space, in time, or both. First, consider space. The tape contains three symbols, CAT. Suppose that you want to use the state to memorize this string. Start from state 0, representing empty context. After scan the first symbol C, the machine enters state 1, meaning C. After scan the second symbol A, the machine enters state 2, meaning CA. After scan the third symbol T, the machine entered state 3, meaning CAT. Namely, a state can memorize a space context as needed. But this space pattern CAT also exists in time as the read-write head scans. Namely, a state can also memorize a temporal context as needed. In other words, spatial contexts and the temporal contexts are convertible. A state can represent the word CAT or DOG in a spatial pattern with many words on a page, or in a temporal pattern with many words when you read or hear. A state can also perform abstraction for input symbols. Suppose that fonts do not change the type concept of a letter. After scan any forms of C, Roman C, italic C, or bold C, the machine enters the same state 1. Namely, the state 1 is invariant to fonts. This is abstraction. Abstract the intended concept type while disregarding another concept, font. Each type concept has multiple values. Cat, dog. Each font concept has different values. Roman, italics, bold. Concept learning is to achieve all values of a learned concept category are invariant to all other values of another learned concept category. Therefore, if only one concept category is learned as output, regardless how many concept values, the system does not learn the concept category at all. Perceptron has learned type concept category only, with many values such as car, dog, chair, telephone, walker, etc. However, because perceptron has not learned any other concept category, for example, font, perceptron does not do concept learning. If a bug lives in a 2D surface, but it never goes beyond 2D to learn 3D, it never understands what it means by 2D. Therefore, all pattern recognition systems that learn different type values, including all ImageNet tests and Lake et al. Titled Concept Learning in Science, November 11, 2015, do not perform concept learning. The above cat example tells us that a state memorizes the current context value. This is the flexibility of a symbolic state, 1, 2, 3, and so on. Another contribution of Turing is the control of his machine. Turing defined the control of the machine to be a lookup table. The table has 2 columns as the 2 inputs to the control. The first column is the current machine state. The second column is the currently read tape symbol. To find the matched entry in the table, both input columns must match. This is like an English dictionary. you must match not only the word, but also the part of speech, noun, verb, adjective, etc. Namely, you must match the word column and the part of speech column. In our above CAT example, the state 0 and the input C must both match. The state 1 and input A must both match, and so on. The control of a Turing machine implements such a lookup table. The input to the lookup table has two columns, state and word. In our brain model, you will see below that when the state becomes self-generating and complex, a miracle happens. Imagine the part of speech become many self-generating concepts that a child learns in its life beyond the part of speech. The output from the lookup table is the entry that matches your lookup input. Each table entry stores the corresponding machine's output behavior. The behavior can become very complex in the brain. Let us look at the simple Turing machine first. A behavior in the lookup table consists of three elements: the next state, the symbol to be written on the tape, and the head move after the writing. Below you will see that these three output components will corresponding to brain state, brain action, and brain move respectively. Namely, the control has two elements as input and three elements as output. Let us call it 5-element machine transition in a Turing machine. 2 elements as input to the control and 3 elements as the output from the control. A program for a Turing machine is a finite list of such transitions. The 5-element transitions uses this Turing machine language. From the given initial state, the control reads 2 input symbols at a time, one letter from the tape and the other from the state of the control. After each reading, the control searches in the lookup table for the matched entry. Once the matched entry is found, the control outputs the 3-element behavior. The 3-element behavior changes the state, writes to the tape, and moves ahead. The control continues this way until the behavior corresponds to a stop. What is most important with Turing machine is the idea of what is now called universal Turing machine. A universal Turing machine is equivalent to a general purpose computer. A fact that's crucial here, but typically overlooked, is as follows. Let us call it the new fundamental theorem of universal Turing machines. A universal Turing machine and a regular Turing machines are basically the same. The only difference is the contents in their lookup tables. This theorem has led to the following implication. A general purpose brain and a special purpose brain are genomically the same. Namely, an adult brain and a toddler brains are genomically the same. Their difference is the contents in their brain lookup tables. This is a key notion for us to understand next how a brain is for general purpose. Many computer scientists appear to have not paid sufficient attention to this notion. Many neuroscientists do not know about Turing machines at all. We will get back to this implication later in this episode. The input tape for universal Turing machine has two parts instead of one, a program and the input to the program. The program on the tape consists of the 5-element transitions for the Turing machine. This program can be written by anybody for any purpose. As long as the contents in the lookup table are written to simulate the program on the tape, the regular Turing machines become a universal Turing machine. Because the program can be for any practical purpose, a universal Turing machine is for general purposes. All modern digital computers, from mainframe supercomputers to your desktop, laptops, smartphones, are equivalent to a universal Turing machine. The idea of a universal Turing machine has fascinated many people. It has also created what we call the computer industry. Many psychologists have made metaphor between brains and computers. However, they agree that the brains and computers appear to work very differently. Let me present the following brain Turing machine material in an intuitive way. It bridges the wide gap between the Turing machine and the brain. Namely, extends Turing machines to a new kind of machines called Genesema Turing machine. A biological brain contains a Genesema Turing machine. Genesema is the acronym of grounded, emergent, natural, scout, attentive, motivated, abstractive. Its number one goal is to understand and model brain learning. Its number two goal is to accomplish brain-like, fully automatic machine learning. G, grounded. The tape becomes the real world. This is necessary for the machine to directly learn from the real world facts. E, emergent. No symbols are allowed at all. Only patterns that emerge from real sensors and effectors, such as images. Any image patch in this video is a pattern. Any image patch of an array of muscle neurons is also a pattern. What is a symbol? Please do not get angry, as what I said below can upset many symbolic experts. There is no physical symbol at all without the aid of human brains. For example, a letter C above can be written in many ways, printed and handwritten. You still see it as an abstract C because your brain aids you. Inside the brain, there's no uniquely matchable symbol. Each view of a letter C may produce a different firing patterns in your eye. Therefore, abstract symbols are illusory, only added by adult human communicators. A human programmer uses a symbol C to mean something in his mind. If the human listener does not ask, "What is C?" his conversation continues. The meanings of all such input and output symbols are explained in his design document. However, he did not tell the machine what those symbols mean. Therefore, the machine does not understand any such symbols. That is why I argue that we cannot allow any brain model to have any symbols inside. Let us continue our Genesima acronym. N, natural. Representations in the control that implement table lookup must be natural, that is, exclusively from sensors and effectors. We cannot impose any artificial coding of a pattern just to make table lookup easier. Many modelers did use artificial hand coding of input images. That makes brain-like fully automatic machine learning impossible. I, incremental. The machine must learn incrementally, namely, collecting many images for training is impractical. This is because each action may change the next image. The brain must act first before it can receive the next image. S, skull. The skull closes the brain. Forbid hand tweaking parameters inside control after the inception, throughout the lifetime, while the network learns and open theories of unpredictable tasks. This is critical for the brain-like fully automatic machine learning. A, attentive. At each time, the control attends to only some object patches, not the entire cluttered scene. Now, I attend the camera instead of ceiling. When you recognize the camera, you attend to the camera patch only. M, motivated. Avoid pain, seek pleasure, and self-wire to speed up learning important events. Without motivation, the agent could be very lazy and do nothing, or it might keep learning unimportant events, wasting time and efforts. A, abstractive. The control automatically learns to abstract concepts, actions. For type dark, the dark is dark regardless where it appears in the retina. Namely, the dark type is invariant to locations. Similarly, the dark type is invariant to other concept categories, scale, viewing angles, lighting directions, etc. For nearly 80 years, Turing machines seems far from the way brains work. Here, let me bridge this gap by providing and intuitive explanation. The explanation is supported by a rigorous mathematical proof. Our experimental results have also backed this theory. We will discuss such experiments in later episodes. The first principle is probably difficult for Alan Turing to accept, although he was interested in human intelligence in his later life. This difficulty has been well demonstrated by the current divide of AI. The first principle is we must drop all symbols in the Turing machines. The symbols in the Turing machines assist us to understand the machine, but a brain does not use symbols inside itself. The second principle is we cannot assume a central controller in the brain. For example, there is no central controller to convert patterns into symbols. Patterns are parallel signals from sensors and effectors. From each eye, the retina provides an image at each time instance. From each ear, the cochlea provides an image of sound waves. From the skin, the somatic receptors provide an image of touch. Effectors such as muscles and glands also take and provide images. The third principle, we extend the symbolic tape of the Turing machine to the real world. The read-write head of the Turing machine becomes real sensors and real effectors. Our Genesis Turing machine brain model senses the physical world and acts on it. It senses the world through its sensors. It acts on the world through its effectors. Recall that the control Turing machine performs table lookup. The lookup table has two input columns. Now, both inputs become patterns, the input patterns and the state pattern. The fourth principle, we extend the definition of state to include all the three output components of the Turing machine, namely the state, the output symbol, and the head motion are part of the output state. We require every output state to be a pattern. Let us summarize. Instead of taking each input symbol from the tape, the Genesis Turing machine takes camera images from the world. Instead of taking each symbolic actions from the control to act on the tape, the Genesis Turing machines takes each effect images acting on the world. Some actions are implicit, like you talk softly. Some actions are explicit, like you pick up an object. With the above four principles, the Genesis Turing machine constructs the lookup table automatically. Who teaches the Genesis Turing machine? Its own body when it interacts with the real world. It can start with some inborn behaviors such as crying. With the basic forms of motivation, the machine is supervised by its own body. In psychology, scaffolding means early learned skills assist later learning. Learn the skills to turn the body, assist learning how to crawl. learn the words I and run, assist learning I run. The earlier field entries in the lookup table assist filling later entries. Such a series of transitions is loaded into the lookup table as a program. A developmental network, DM, has three areas: the sensory area, the brain area, and the motoric area. The brain area develops many different sub-areas, known as developmental areas. They take shape through life activities, from inception to newborn to adulthood. Using the universal Turing machine theory, we further established that the lookup table mechanism is for general purpose. This table lookup mechanism can take in all practical information because they are represented as sensory patterns and muscle patterns. This includes all tasks that a natural and artificial agent can practically learn and discover in its life. The programmer of the table lookup mechanism is like writing a genome program. He does not need to know what the agent will learn in its life. Namely, the mechanism of autonomous learning is independent of tasks to be learned. In particular, all practical skills of thinking can be now learned automatically. This is very different from traditional computational discussion of machine thinking. Alan Turing asked, "Can machines think?" The model Genesema Turing machine provides an answer. Not only yes, but also we have known how machines can think. To put in a nutshell, brain is like a lookup table using only patterns. Biology makes such table lookup possible. The innate biological mechanisms is mainly for table lookup. How does the developmental network learn without a central controller? Neurons compete to fire through inhibitory connections. The competition results in relatively fewer neuron firing at any time. The firing neurons correspond to working memory. They are the best matched for sensory input and action state input. They learn using what is called Hebbian mechanisms. Through the repeated updates of many neurons, the distribution of all the neuronal weights results in a best tiling of the input state space. This is like best tiling of complex heavy traffic area using a limited number of tires. I have published a mathematical proof of the optimality of our model in Weng, International Journal of Intelligent Science, 2015. The features that all neurons detect are called lobar components. The computational mechanisms is called lobar component analysis, LCA. LCA is very different from the well-known independent component analysis, ICA. LCA is based on biological mechanisms, but ICA is based on a mathematical concept, independence. Biologically, this mathematical idea appears to be too rigid. Computationally, these mathematical ideas is too expensive. The brain does not seem to use the well-known error backpropagation either. Biologically, a baby does not know error or has error on its effector end. Computationally, gradient-based error backpropagation damages long-term memory. Why? The gradient identifies only neurons that can help most, but the current context is not those neurons' memory business. When those neurons help to reduce the error, their long-term memory is lost. That is why all ImageNet tests have to use batch learning. Those systems do not allow early learned simple skills to help later learning of more complex skills, scaffolding. Brains appears to use internally unsupervised LCA, but the bodies supervise them outside. The body experience through the life fuels and refines the brain table incrementally. Some of the brain behaviors are somewhat fueled before birth. We call them innate behaviors, such as crying and heart beating. Innate behaviors facilitate early learning. After birth, many more task-specific skills fuel the brain table as sensory motor vectors. That is why parents never spoke Chinese, but their children can learn Chinese. If a baby is lazy and does not want to do anything, he will die. That is how motivation is necessary. Pain sensors and hunger sensors link to brain areas that release aversive neurotransmitters such as serotonin. We call them aversive sensors. Sweet sensors and sex organs link to brain areas that release appetitive neurotransmitters such as dopamine. We call them appetitive sensors. Neurotransmitters such as serotonin and dopamine diffuse into all brain areas. Aversive neurotransmitters suppress the firing of motor neurons. If you did something bad and receive an electric shock, the recall of a shock produces serotonin that suppresses the firing of the action. Appetitive neurotransmitters excite the firing motor neurons. If you did something good and received sweet juice, the recall of sweet produces dopamine that excites the firing of the action. Typically, the actions occur first, the rewards occur next, considerably delayed. The value of each action, aversive or appetitive, is predicted through later learned skills of prediction. Both aversive and appetitive neurotransmitters also increase the learning rate of each firing neuron so that punishment and rewards is faster to learn. In addition to aversive and appetitive category above, other two categories of neurotransmitters are acetylcholine and norepinephrine. Acetylcholine appears to indicate expected uncertainty. Norepinephrine appears to indicate unexpected uncertainty. They are used by each neuron to automatically wire with other neurons. The gap between a neuron and its input neuron is called synapse. Each synapse has a conductance called weight. Uncertainty computed by each neuron is measured by the inputs match the conductance. The acetylcholine in each neuron measures the average goodness of match. If the goodness is much off the average of uncertainty when the neuron fires, the novelty is high. Badly matched synapses of a neuron are gradually cut off. Well-matched synapses of a neuron encourage the growth of more nearby synapses. This is how each neuron can detect the contour of each object without supervision of the object contour. Because pixels inside an object patch match well, but the background pixels do not. Each neuron automatically finds a stable object patch but cut off background pixels. In general, each neuron automatically finds a stable feature. This is done without a central controller. The more mature the animal is, the more sophisticated the lookup table is. Similarly, the value system of the brain is also more sophisticated. However, the basic pain avoidance and the pleasure-seeking behavior is early developed. They contribute to the later developed higher values. A child does not like hunger and pain due to serotonin. Food removes hunger and provides appetitive sweet through dopamine. A child listens to the mother because she feeds him. That is how a little child learns to listen to his mother. An adult listens to his boss because his boss pays his salary that is needed to feed his family and purchase other necessities. That is why an employee listens to his boss, to avoid hunger, cold, and provide security. These are only some examples for the development of higher value system. If you ask me whether our brain model will develop consciousness, I would predict that the consciousness is not a piecemeal. Consciousness seems to be manifested through many skills as a genesymatory machine learned through life. I guess that the genesymatory machines that emerges inside DMs will demonstrate certain consciousness we have seen from some higher animals. If you ask me whether a brain, natural or artificial, has a soul, I guess that the soul is manifested only through many such brain skills when the brain is mature. However, these are just my current educated guesses. We will discuss more complex consequences of the way brains work. In summary, a genesymatory machine inside the DM enables brain-like, fully automatic machine learning. It also provides a computational model about how a brain learns through the life. Thank you for watching.
Brain Mind Institute is hosting the AI Machine Learning Contest. If you would like to participate, visit the Brain Mind Institute webpage. The discovery of new knowledge here involves cost. Sadly, ever since they published the new developmental learning direction in Science 2001, all of Professor Weng's research proposals to the U.S. government have been rejected. If you would like to help make a difference, please be a donor to the Brain Mind Institute. See more information on the Brain Mind Institute webpage.